I can't quite see who's on here yet. But if you're here, just give me a chat. Oh, hey, Doreen. Yeah, give me a thumbs up or a hi. And I'd love for you to share this because this is something all of us in business have in common, right? We get overwhelmed and we can't figure out what to do next. So that's what I want to talk about today. How do we focus? How do we actually finish things? And how do we move forward and actually get what we want to get done? So if you think this is a great conversation, share it, please. Everybody needs to hear these tips. So, and I'm a strategist, just so you know. I used to work for the US government as a strategist, and I take a strategic view to most things. Plus, I have struggled with this. I have shiny object syndrome up the wazoo. So I have really struggled with this. And here are, today I want to share with you the 6 steps that have really helped me and that I want to help you with. So please share it. Give me some hearts. Give me some love if you're there. And we'll get started. So one of the things that a lot of us deal with is that, especially if you're a solopreneur, you run your own business and it's just you at the moment, one of the things you can really struggle with is you need a lot, right? You're like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. There's so much happening and I need help with all of it right now. And that's an overwhelming place to be in. So we want to learn, how can I actually get something done so I'm starting to cross things off the list instead of just feeling overwhelmed by everything. And that can be really hard when we look around and we're like, oh my gosh, look at all this expertise. I need all of it right now to help me because I'm struggling and I have so much that I need help with. So here's how to go about it. The first thing to do is to accept where you are. So step 1 is accept where you are. And that can be really hard if you run your own business, because a lot of us don't want to accept where we are. We only want to think about where we can be. We look at other people and we're like, I know I should be on that level. I know I should be ready for that. I know I should be doing that. But we need to accept where we are now. So if we're looking at things like group courses, have we really mastered one-on-one? Or if we're looking at things like writing a book, well, do we have a process that we want to share? So actually being really honest with yourself about where you actually are in your business journey. I gotta lower the camera. This shadow on my chin is driving me crazy. Hold on just a second. See if the tripod will go down. There we go. That's better. Look how bright I am now. So one of the first step is to really be honest about where you are. Like, what are you actually focusing on right now? What step actually is the next step? And then once you are honest about where you are in your business, then we need to identify your goals. So where do you want to go? So we know where we are. I'm at, this stage. I have this many people on my list. I've got this going on. This is my stream of income. This is, where I'm making money now, and what's that actual money look like? Is it livable? Like, get really, really honest. That's step 1. And then step 2 is, okay, where would I rather be? So would I rather have another stream of income? Would I rather have more people on my list? Would I rather have more people on this kind of list, or maybe a social media platform? So identify what your goals are. Maybe it's writing a book. Maybe it's doing a course. Maybe it's partnering with somebody. Maybe it's starting a podcast. Maybe it's getting published in national media outlets. Get really clear on what your goals are. And then the third step is then to break down, what do you need to do to get there? So we all know that if you go to write a book, or even doing something as simple as getting in, having to post or something like that, there's a lot of different steps to it, right? Everything we do takes steps. Even making this video, which I'm going to post on my website and send to the list, that's a lot of different steps. We're on Periscope, we make the video, then I have to upload it, then I have to upload it again to a place where I can then embed it in my website, then I share it with people. I mean, that's a lot of steps, and everything takes time, and we have to do the steps in the right order in order to succeed. So we want to get really clear on what are all the steps involved in what you envision for yourself. So maybe it's something as big as your goal is to have a $1 million business or a $10 million business. Great, let's break down the steps to get there. So what are the different components of that? What are the different actions that you need to take? What are the different lines of effort that you would make? So maybe some of that's networking, maybe some of it's course delivery, maybe some of it's media attention, maybe some of it's actual one-on-one work. So getting really clear on what are all those different things that you need to do. So just to recap for people who are just joining us, we're going through the 6 steps to focus. And the reason we're going through this, and to stop inbox overwhelm, that's key. And the reason we're going over this is because, especially if you run your own business, it can be really hard to sort through that huge list of things that you have to do, whether you just keep that list in your head or it's actually on paper or it's in a whole notebook. We all have a lot on our plates, and it can be really overwhelming. And overwhelm can lead to paralysis or indecision or not having any energy to move forward because there's just so much on our plates. So we want to figure out, and I've really struggled with, well, how do I actually do this? How do I actually move forward? How do I take the steps that I need to do to get something done so that I can feel better and know that I'm really building towards what I want? So if you think that's a great topic, I'd love some hearts. I'd love for you to share this with other people. This is really huge to helping everybody succeed. So it's great information. So the first step is to accept where you actually are now. We all want to be somewhere we're not. I get it. That's why we're motivated. That's why we know that we're going to succeed. But we have to actually accept where we are now. We have to accept the numbers we have, the budget we have, the time that we have, the energy that we have, our other priorities in life. Like, we have to be really clear on what's actually going on in our lives right now. Because we may go out at the beginning of every week and think, oh, I could write a book this week. And then if you actually look at the hours that you have on your calendar, you only have like 2 free hours on Tuesday and Thursday morning. Because you're running around and doing everything else and all the other things that go on in being you and leading your life. So get really clear on where you are now in your business and in your life. And you also might not be emotionally ready for some of the stuff that goes along with parts of your business. You know, we all might want to be on Oprah, but like, can we really handle the mass influx of stuff that comes when we have that level of exposure to people? So there's lots of things that we want to build and help support ourselves with. And I'm just looking down at my notes so that you know. So the next step, so that's the first step, get clear on where you are. The second step is identify your goals. So figure out where you want to be. We're pretty basic steps right now so far, right? But this is how to think about it from a strategic point of view. Figure out where you are, think about where you want to be, and then we have this gap in between, right? And we want to break down, this is the third step, we want to break down the steps in between where you want to be and where you are now. And we want to start at the end. So we want to start at where you want to be and take it down backwards to an action that you could do right now. So that's pretty basic, like planning 101. Look at where you want to be and reverse engineer the process until you get there. And then once we have those actions, and there could be 100 of them depending on what your project is. Honestly, there could be 1,000 of them. I do implementation or strategic and implementation planning for organizations, and sometimes there are thousands of tasks on those implementation plan documents. Of course, we don't share that with everybody because people would just cry, but it's all these different tasks that we have to do to achieve a much bigger goal, like succeeding or bringing in $10 million or something like that. So we break it down to all these little tasks, but focus just first on a project. Maybe that project is getting in a national publication. Maybe the project is getting your project or your program done and out. Maybe your project is writing a book or a new opt-in or something like that. So pick one thing and reverse engineer all the steps that you're going to need to do to get there. And then step 4 is to prioritize those. So going back to where you are now, so we looked, I don't know which side the camera's on for you, which one's forward and backward, but we started with where we are now, then we looked at where we want to be, and then we reverse engineered from where we want to be back to all the tasks and actions that we need to take, and then we go back to where we are now and we prioritize them. So which one needs to come first, and which one's the most important to get us where we're going to go and to get us where we want to go. And then you seek and you allow for help on just that task. And this is where we start to get into why I'm having this Periscope and why we need to talk about this and why it's different than Planning 101. Just seek help for that one step. That's it. All those other, this is the 6th step. Delete everything else. So when I first started my business and I got into the online world, my mind was like, what? Oh my God, there's thousands of people who can help me. And what I needed to do, I originally got on literally like hundreds of email lists of people because they were all teaching things that I knew that I'd want to know at some point. I knew that I wanted to know about podcasting, and I knew I wanted to know about publishing, and I knew I wanted to know about client relations, and I knew I wanted to know about how to have a client agreement, and I knew I wanted to know about the systems to build a funnel, you know, all of these different pieces. And so I was on every single list for things that I would need later. But the key to actually getting stuff done is to delete everything that comes later and focus only on what you need now. So that's the 6 steps, right? We start with where we are now. We figure out where we want to go. We identify all the steps in between those two. We reverse engineer from where we want to go back to where we are now. We prioritize the actions based on where we are now, and then we delete everything else. And that can be really hard to do. But let me give you an example. So if you want to write a book, it's really tempting to avoid the work of writing the book, which is the hard work, by reading about publishing. But honestly, until you wrote the book, you don't need to know about publishing. You need to know about how to organize your thoughts in a book, how to engage readers in a book, how to have catchy titles. All of the, actually that one comes way later too. But those types of things, you don't need to know about how to write the right query letter. You don't need to know about how to do self-publishing options. All you need to do is write the book, because you need to know you're capable of writing the book. Now, some people might disagree with that. If you're going to go the way of pitching a publishing house, then you might have the pitch letter done first. But in that case, then you know your steps, right? And then you focus just on that. You don't need to know about how to build this platform to sell your book later. You just need to know how am I gonna work on getting my pitch together now. So we want to get really, really clear on what the first few steps are immediately in front of you and hone in on those like wolves on a carcass. Like that's it. That's all we are focusing on. And this may feel really uncomfortable. It may feel really uncomfortable to delete all of those email subscriptions that you're on from people who are giving you really valuable information, but information that's not actually relevant and actionable for you today. And this is where we get into overwhelm, right? This is where our inboxes start to drive us crazy and we go, oh my gosh, there's so much to do and I'm always falling behind. It's because we can't take action on what's coming in. And we have to have as much input as we have output. But when we just have in and in and in and in, we get inundated and overwhelmed. So we want to make sure that whatever comes in, we can take action and put it right back out. So we actually need to produce, which means we both have to create more and limit what's coming in to only be something we can process and turn around and send out. So we really want to focus. And if this is a hard thing for you to get your head around and like actually implement, I want you to ask yourself a question. What are you willing to miss out on in order to succeed? Because that's really the question. What are you actually willing to miss out on in order to succeed? Because we all might have the fear of missing out going on all the time, but some things we're going to have to miss out on in order to actually get where we want to go. So that's the main question. Unsubscribe from everything that you can except for your immediate priorities, and don't be afraid to miss out on what's not relevant to who and where you are right now. And that's hard, right? It's hard. It's hard to know that you're not ready for this, or it's hard to know that you're not at that level. It feels like you're just, you don't want to accept it. You don't want to accept where you are because you keep thinking about your future. But accepting where you are now is really the only way to be able to take empowered action right now to get where you want to be later. So we want to, again, I'll give you the 6 steps. They all go together. The first step is to acknowledge where you are now. That's really powerful. That's where your power is. It's right now, where you are right now. Not where you want to be, not where you wish you were, not 6 months behind where you actually are, but where are you right now? What do you need to do? What's your top priority? What's going on in your business, and what's going to make the biggest difference? So think about all those things and say, this is who I am, this is where I am right now. The next step is to think, step number 2, where do I want to be? Easy, right? Those are all our goals. And you can put your goals out in 6 months, you can put them out a year, you can put them out in 5 years, you can put them out in 10 years. The problem as you put them out later and later is it gets harder to get clear on the action steps. So you may want to just put down goals for 3 months from now, or 6 months from now, or a year from now. That's probably the longest out you want to go. So just put out a few goals in the short term. And then the third step is to break down the steps that you need to take to get there. And you do that by starting at where you want to be and reverse engineering it down to where you are. So we start at the goal itself and ask from that space, what did I do to get here? And how did I take those steps? What did those steps look like? And then once you have those steps, go back to where you are now from your perspective as who you are now and prioritize them. What has to come first? What's most important? Some things like, we may all want to interview people and start a podcast right now, but if you don't know what software you're going to support it on, then we might want to figure that out first before we gather a bunch of interviews. On the other hand, if you have the opportunity right now and the access to people right now because you're at a conference and you want to do the interviews and then figure out the software later. So it doesn't necessarily matter to me which priorities you choose and what steps you do them in, but it matters to you. So you need to go through that process of figuring out all the steps and then prioritizing them for yourself. The only thing I will say here, though, is that this is the key piece. So you got to delete all the stuff that doesn't matter. So we're skipping ahead, but the 5th step, so 4th step is prioritize and prioritize the actions. The 6th step is to seek help on just that thing. So the universe hates a void. We've all heard that phrase, right? The universe abhors a void. So if we know that there's a gap in knowledge or a gap in technology or a gap in support, if we focus on that gap and say, actually, nope, we're going to work through this because I've got a goal and this is the next step and it's going to be solved, then that problem is going to be solved, right? The void will be filled. So support's going to come out of the woodwork from the most unexpected places. You're going to see that one thing that pops up on Facebook that you really need. It's going to come for what you need it to come for. But if you're looking at 200 things because you think you have to do everything at once, then you're just going to be gathering way too much input and not able to take the output. So by focusing on what the exact step it is that comes next, you're able to actually recognize the opportunities that are showing up, the support that's showing up, the education that's showing up, the training that's showing up, the people that are showing up to help you, and then you can take action and move it forward. This happens for me all the time. Just actually 2 weeks ago this happened. I said, you know what? The next thing I really want to figure out, because my main goal is to share my message with even more people, the next thing I want to really figure out is Facebook messaging. And I kid you not, 10 minutes later, I got an email from a woman all about this woman that she's been working with to do Facebook messaging. And then I connected with a friend who I met last year who specializes in Facebook messaging. And she was like, great, let's hop on the phone within an hour. So once you have that focus, the support will come and help you. But you have to focus in on what is the actual next step. Now for me, building my list to the number I want to build it to so that I can share with as many people as I know will make a real impact, because they'll share and they'll share and they'll share and they'll share it with their clients and they'll share it with their friends. You know, to make the impact on the level that I know would be really valuable and start to change how we think about our lives and our purpose in the world. That's a huge number. That's a huge task, right? And it's not going to happen overnight. So there's a lot of steps involved in that. But I'd focused on just the first one. Oh, let's figure out Facebook ads so I can start to get my message out. There are other things involved in that. Once I have the knowledge about how to build the ad and what's the best way to go about the ad, great. Then I need to develop the product to offer, or the free service to offer, or the free download that they can get. Like, there's lots of things that go with that, and there's lots of marketing language and all sorts of other cool things, the graphics, all that stuff. But the first step for me was figuring out, well, what really do I need to do here? And so I immediately got answered with that by talking to a Facebook expert and having another friend say, hey, there's this other person you could talk to as well. So focus in on what the first step is. For me, the first step was information gathering. What do I need? Can I talk to an expert? And then the last step, step number 6, delete everything else. Delete everything else. And I know this is intimidating because you think, yeah, but I'm going to need to know that then. Here's what I would suggest. Grab a Google Doc, grab a Word doc, whatever you have, and put in there a topic along the side. Like, make a little chart, put in there all the different topics, and then write the names of the people who specialize in those topics and their website links or their free download links. And you can come back to it later. Because you don't need it now. You just don't need it now. And it's okay if you don't want to lose their information, but you can unsubscribe from their list so that you can actually focus and get stuff more out instead of just being overwhelmed by in. But you can still keep track of who they are by creating this document to make sure that you know who they are and you know where to go once you actually need that help and it's the right time for that. So that's great. It's helping you sort out everything you have now. It's helping you realize you're not going to miss out on anything. And then you have to ask yourself the really tough question of, what are you willing to miss out on now in order to succeed later? Because that's really what it is, right? And you don't have to completely lose it. You don't have to lose touch with everything. You don't have to climb into a hole. You just need to focus on the steps that you have to do right now. And I found that putting together a Google Doc with people to refer to later is super helpful. It actually has never been helpful for me later, but it's always helpful for me in the moment to feel like I can let go. And that's really key, right? We have to be willing to let go. So hopefully that was helpful. The biggest question, of course, is what are you willing to miss out on in order to succeed? And then the 6 steps: accept where you are, figure out where you want to be, plan or break down the steps between those two, starting at where you want to be in your goals, prioritize those actions based on where you are now, seek out and allow for help to find you on those prioritized actions. That's where the magic's going to happen. As soon as you prioritize, as soon as you focus and you hone in, you'll be amazed by all the support that comes to you. And you can also then actively seek out the right support instead of just randomly scrolling through Facebook or looking at all these different people's websites and not knowing what help you need. So to help you focus in, it'll help you spend your resources better, including your time and your energy and your money. And then the last step is delete everything else. Put those blinders on. Put the blinders on and actually finish it. And if you want to feel better about deleting things, just make a list or a spreadsheet in Google Docs or something like that where you can write down what the topic is and who the expert is and how to find them later. And then you've got it all there if you want to go back to it later. It's pretty simple. I hope that was helpful. Today's a short video. We've only been 20 minutes. That's kind of cool. Does anybody have any questions? I think some of you may be on the computer instead of on the phone, so you may not be able to type in your questions. But if you do, you can always find me afterwards as well. All right. So if you want to have the recordings of all of this, so the Monday we talked about how to discover your business message, how to get clear on your life purpose and translate that into a business message and a clear audience for you. And then yesterday we talked about, what did we talk about? It was a really cool topic. Oh, the strategic way, the 6 ways to think about and shape your social media strategy from a strategist perspective. So we're not talking about the return rates and investments in social media itself, but we're talking about how do you actually create a strategy to help you over time navigate social media and make the best of it for your personal purpose and your business purpose. And today we're talking about the 6 steps to focus. Tomorrow we're going to talk about why branding is so painful for so many of us, and we're going to go really deep into the philosophy on that. So we're going to talk about anthropology and human psyche and all sorts of really cool stuff tomorrow. We're going to go deep on a topic. So show up, have your questions, bring all of your rants about branding because that's the day to have it. It's going to be great. And then Friday we're going to talk about confidence and the 6 mindset shifts and beliefs that have really helped me with confidence with business and the way I had to change how I was thinking about myself and my business and the message that I have in order to actually get it out there instead of just hiding and being really afraid and worrying if I was a fraud or any of that. So Friday we're going to talk about 6 beliefs to help you feel more confident in your business and in your message itself. And if you want all of these videos, if you missed the first 3 or you're going to miss Thursday or Friday, you can jump on my website. It's alexaspierce.com. Go up in the upper left corner. It says join the free training. That's going to take you to a page where you can sign up for my live webinar next Tuesday at 3 p.m. New York time. And we're going to talk about the 3 steps to success and again, how to get clear on your business message and then where to take it from there and how to go all the way down to getting a clear offer. And then my new program, which is coming up, Profit on Purpose. It's a pretty amazing program. I've run it twice before. It's phenomenal. People have mind-blowing results. So we're going to talk about that on Tuesday, and I'm going to give away a free spot. Yay! So if you're there live, you're going to have a chance to win a free spot. But when you sign up for that free training, you'll also get all the recordings to this week's video so that you can access those. And I hope that's helpful. So we'll go over the 6 steps one more time. So again, the whole premise for this is that we need to put out as much as we bring in. So when we just keep bringing in and in and in, we get really overwhelmed and it's really hard to figure out what we actually need to do. And especially if you're in the beginning phases or the first few years of your business or even later and it's just you working on it, then it can be really overwhelming to think, oh my gosh, there's so much I need to do and I don't even know where to start. So the first step is to acknowledge where you actually are in your business. What's the next step for you? What's the most important thing going on? Where's your money coming from? What is that most important thing? So for me, the most important thing is building my reach. That's the most important thing. I have a message. I feel really clear in how I offer that and the different ways it shows up in the work that I do. And now I want to share it with as many people as possible. That's not the same as my focus last year. My focus last year was on really getting clear on how to make this more accessible for people. So get clear on where you are now and what your focus is. Then get clear on what your goal is. So that's your focus, right? What's your goal? We want to break down all the steps, starting at the goal all the way down to where you are now, and then come back to where you are now from your perspective here and say, well, what's the most important thing to do now? What's the most important thing to do first? And then seek out help and support just on those prioritized actions. So once you know what you're focusing on, put it out there. Say, even to yourself, I need help on this, or start to look for the people who can help you on just those things that come first, so you can actually get them done, which means you're starting to move forward and get that forward momentum. And then to help yourself, put the blinders on and delete everything else. Create that spreadsheet of experts to go to later on different topics, but put the blinders on, just focus on the steps in front of you so that you get them done. Because that's the goal, right? We all have this incredible creativity inside us and we want to share it, so we need to get it out of us. And if that's struggling for, like, if that's a challenge for you, and if you're going, I don't want to miss out, I don't want to miss out, I don't want to miss out, ask yourself, what are you willing to miss out on in order to succeed? Because I imagine if you want it badly enough, you're willing to miss out on almost anything. So focus, 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 focus. And we focus by getting clear on our priorities, finding just the help we need to actually achieve those priorities, and ignoring and tuning out everything else. You can still make notes about people to go to later, have that spreadsheet, type it in there. Anytime you see something that you're like, oh my God, I want to do that, don't click the button, just write down their name. Just take the link and put it away for later, because you can use it later. Just don't be pulled and swayed to go do it now. And it's really tempting. It is really tempting. So just pull the link, pull the name, put it in your holding document, and you can come to it later. But right now, you are only focused on what you need to do. And I know that's really hard, but just remember, you got to give stuff up in order to succeed. So what are you willing to give up in order to succeed? Especially if you can just put it in a holding document and go to it later. You're not giving it up. You're just putting it on hold. So hopefully that's helpful. Message me if you have any questions. You can find me on Facebook. If you're not part of the free training next week where you get all of these videos, go ahead and sign up on my website. It's alexispierce.com in the upper left corner. And I will see you tomorrow, where we're going to be talking about how hard branding is and why branding is so hard and how to approach it so that you can actually move forward and take those leaps that you need to make to stand out and to be who you are and to express yourself as you want to express yourself and know that you're meant to. All right, I will see you then. Mwah!